Hello all. Some friends and I have recently reached the UV age in technological journey. In the AE2, we are at the moment crafting the Void Ore Miner. It appears to be almost finished, which will mark us as mid-game. Here we go, Void Ore Miner. Welcome to the mid-game. Um, we have lots of ages left to go though. But I thought this is probably an appropriate time to sort of show where the base is so far, seeing as the way that we automate things is going to change slightly moving forward because we have gotten access to flux networks, which means that we can transfer this energy wirelessly, obviously, rather than having to use P2P or other methods. Um, and it's sort of like you get new chem lines and stuff like that, so it's fun. Anyways, enough rambling. Let us explore the base. So this is our terminal area. This is where we craft stuff and make patterns, etc. Um, this blue terminal connects to our mass assembler. It's very laggy scrolling through there. Um, this red zone over here, I'll explain the aesthetics soon. But this red zone is for all of our early automations. So you can see like some HV EV machines, the clay line. I don't really remember what this is. Oh yeah, diesel. There's our power source went from steam to biodiesel to nitrobenzene, and we are still on nitrobenzene, even in UV, but we'll get to power soon. But yes, this red zone is just all of our starting automations for the early tiers of the pack. So we have our vacuum freezer, which we have the ore dictionary storage bus going into the input bus, so that just anything hot coming into the system gets frozen. This is our on-demand Vulcanus, which does all of the hot ingots that we don't need on passive. It's very interesting that in TJ you don't actually need a lot of like passive EBFs. You do need some, obviously, but because the Vulcanus and like really high levels of EBF are so quick, you can just on demand, and it's not the bottleneck whatsoever, which is really convenient actually compared to some other packs. This is a solidify wall for all the fluids coming in that need to be solidified into various ingots. Usually the use case is for plastic, like PBI, or for fusion fluids like dubnium and rutherfordium and stuff like that. Conversely, over on this side, we have extractors for, well, some of them aren't set up, but for example, calcium is extracted to be used to make something. Seaborgium, there we go. In the yellow section, we have passive circuit boards, the lower tier. Starting from plastic, epoxy, extreme, elite. And then around the back here, we have insane. There we go, insane. And this one here is for on-demanding the wet wares. This sort of sequence of machines here is oil processing. So we are drilling oil, we are distilling it, we are getting the 3 sulfuric, well technically there's 4, but I'm avoiding the refinery gas because can't be bothered to process it. But we are taking the 3 sulfurics, we are hydrogenizing them, I guess, and then we are cracking, and then we are distilling. So we are getting all of the juicy byproducts, storing them in the super tanks. This solidifier here is for making all of the different types of glass. So in Gregicality, oops, we have a few different glass types, yes, down here. So the latest is osmiridium and then iridium, blah, blah, blah. And these are all used for the different like tiers of machines. So like borosilicate is HV, this is EV, etc. It follows the pattern. If we go under the floor here, we have not solidifiers, extractors, extracting all the fluids that go into the solidifier. So that's how we automate that. Implosion compressor, very standard for compressing stuff. Over here we have portals and AE2 stuff, as well as some enchanting. The only enchanting you really have to do is like if you want to take the high levels of unbreaking and efficiency from the starting hammer and putting them on the pickaxe. But other than that, there isn't really not much to do here. Our quantum rings going to all the different planets where we have like ore miners and fluid drilling and stuff like that. Our disk drives. I made these. Oh, okay. It appears someone's filled these up. I haven't checked this in a while, but that's very nice. End portal, dislocators for all the planets, space suit, mining dimension, nether, very standard. Over here is just some like random EV machines that we haven't bothered to clean up yet. We could probably now that we have multi-blocks, but yeah. A lot of this central area needs cleaning up, to be honest, but that will happen in the future probably. This was the first building we made, so it's still very messy. The mass assembler. Oh yes, and these pyrolyze ovens make, where are we? Wood tar, which is our power source because the wood tar gets turned into benzene, and benzene becomes nitrobenzene, which is our main power source. Over here, these machines just passively make stuff for the circuit boards, which we saw over there. So this is where we on demand craft anything that needs to be made in like the Gregtech machines, I guess. So starting off, we have a mixer with supply fluids, and we have a different input bus for each of the different circuits because for mixing in this pack, there is a lot of different circuit configurations that you need in order to make stuff. Like if I look at mixer 2, this is used for a bunch of fluids, I guess, but also a bunch of dusts. That was a bit of a bad example. But then we have plates, wire mill, what is this? Forge hammer and compressor. Yeah, I don't really know. They're just all machines that craft stuff on demand. It's all connected to the AE2. I probably should explain kind of like how the automation meta is in TJ, which is essentially you just put interfaces on the input buses and storage buses on the output buses and power, obviously. And that's, you just copy paste that for every machine that you want to do, whether it be on demand or passive. Like I just flew over here as an example. This is making, what is it, silicone rubber? Yeah. So we just have interface supplies items. Sometimes you need a robot arm, like here, there's a robot arm. Keep exact of these. And then storage bus on the output. Sometimes if you have like a byproduct of something, like over here, for example, this is making the silicone rubber from before. Yep, well, not silicone, it's this thing. But it has like these two, I guess, byproduct fluids. So the way that we deal with that is we have it put into a super tank and then a storage bus on the super tank on low priority and on extract only. So that means that when the AE2 goes looking for that fluid, if it wants to put it somewhere, it will always take from the byproduct first rather than the main source. So let's say we produce hydrochloric acid elsewhere, like directly, like that's it, the purpose of the machine is to make hydrochloric acid. The AE2 won't pull from there first, it will pull from like the byproduct tanks. So the machine should, in theory, never get clogged up because a super tank is a pretty big buffer for it to sort of fill and then drain as other processes need that fluid. That was a bit long-winded, but that's essentially how all of the automation goes. And most of it is large chemical reactors, if you couldn't tell already. Anyway, that was a bit off topic, but I think that was important because as we go through the different buildings, you'll see all the different setups, and it's essentially just interface and storage bus. That's it. But yes, the on-demand building. Down here, we have our single assembly line, which will eventually become probably 12. As you can see, I've made some markers in the floor here for when we get more assembly lines. They're going to be vertical in the ground, so it's nice and easy to access and to debug all of the different ones. Over here is our circuit assembly line. We probably won't need more of these, to be honest. We'll just upgrade it as we need. Our 4 large assemblers. They're all currently at UV, I think. Yes. And this is to handle the huge amount of assembling recipes you need. You can see we have a lot of interfaces for, again, like the silicon presses, the different circuits, like the mixer we had up top. This is our sort of main chemistry building for chemistry. I don't know. So starting off on the first floor, over here, I believe this was basic plat line for palladium and platinum. Also, I am playing on a server, so not all of these setups were built by me. Some of them were built by other people. So if I'm unable to explain how a setup works, that's probably why. But everything works as I explained before, hiding the cables underneath so it looks nice. But we have interface providing stuff and storage bus on the output. So it's all connected. Oh yes, and I have wireless crafting and wireless fluid terminal. If you are playing this pack, I do recommend the wireless fluid terminal. So you can just press a button, see all your different fluids. But yes, so we have basic flatline here. Then over here, I believe this is nitrobenzene, which again, as I said earlier, is our power source. This looks like the second half of Flatline. So as we move up the floors of the chemistry building, the different lines get more and more complicated. Well, not necessarily complicated, but more like late game, I guess. Like here, for example, this is fluorescein, and the drawer is not locked. Let's fix that quickly. Go away. Okay, but yes, so more and more complicated stuff. More multi-blocks as well instead of single blocks. All the single blocks ideally just go in the central building over there, and all the cool looking multi-blocks go in here. This is a very funny liquid that I can't pronounce, but it is needed for well, BioWare stuff, but it is also needed for insane circuit boards. So there's what all this is for. Then we also have some of the Aquata lines produced over here. It's a lot more complicated than the CEU version, which is only like 5 steps, I think. This one is like 12 or 15. I don't remember the exact amount. Oh, it seems we have mass clay production tucked away in the corner over here. 10 million silicon, 11 million aluminium. There we go. It is on the server, so everything just runs constantly if it has power and materials. And then finally, the last floor. I believe we have enriched Naquita and Naquadria line. These are they sound very similar, so it's hard to pronounce, but it's essentially these lines here produced. Funny story though, there's actually a single block electrolyzer here because every time we tried to make a multi-block one, it just would not work, and we could not figure out why. So, community edition moment, I guess. Okay, what else do we have up here that is worth showing? Probably more chemicals if you couldn't guess. Anyways, that is the chemistry building. Now, we will show the biolab, which is another build that was made recently. Aha. I tried to do the biohazard symbol. I think it looks all right. Entering airlock. Yes, we must be sterile before entering the biolab. So again, this is a recent build for sterilized growth medium. So this is a very, very long process. There's like 19, well, not 19, there's like 16 chemical reactors, like 9 bioreactors, centrifuges and mixers, the whole lot. I'm not gonna like go through and show you what each one does, but just like if you're also playing this pack, just check JEI. And it's all automated in the same way I've explained before with storage bus and interface on inputs and outputs. Okay, so now let's look at ore processing, which is a much smaller section of the base with all the machines required for ore processing. So washer, sifter, electrolyzer, centrifuge, macerator, and thermal centrifuge. As we can see, we are very rich with quite a number of items. However, since we are getting the void miner very soon, this will probably not be as useful because you just put it on dust mode and get infinite of everything, everything that you need essentially. But that's all processing, I guess. Over here we have passive blast furnaces. So I did say earlier that you don't need that many, but you also still need some, and this is where they are. This is where our void miners will be once we set them up. This is our fusion zone, where all the fusion reactors will go. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then these 5 are reserved for the advanced fusions, which we obviously haven't made that because they are in the higher tiers. So we have a lot of large gas turbines with draconium rotors, or with flux plugs going into the UV battery tower. I believe this is UV. I don't think we upgraded to UHV yet. We have a lot of power stored And down here, this is where we output it all. So these flux plugs were added later, but the P2P is how we would transfer power all to different areas of the base. I think this is one of my more favorite areas of the base because it looks pretty cool. Very looks like a giant like power reactor of some sort. I don't know. Okay, so here we have, this is our canola farm for biodiesel at the start of the pack. These are our very fast world accelerated bonsai trees. Oop. Okay, that was loud. But that is how we get benzene, is with wood. We used to use this, but eventually we just swapped over to the bonsais because they are faster. We have the sugarcane grower there, the very noisy one that I'm not going to go near. And then this large ominous building is for nuclear. So there is a very suspicious image in the top there, combined with the atomic diagram. I do like pixel art, if you couldn't tell already. It's cool. And here are the suspiciously built processing factories for all of the different nuclear elements. So if we go to the EV chapter, you can see this is how far we've gotten up the nuclear ladder. There is a very big processing line involved in every single one of these different actinides, I believe they are, the periodic table. So uranium, neptunium, what's next? Plutonium, americium, etc., etc., etc. So all of these empty spaces here are for the processing lines that we have not yet built, but it will eventually all be filled up with these rather suspicious looking characters here. And downstairs, in the staircase, this is where we process the depleted fuel. So, oops, these ones here are for actually making the fuel in the first place. Then we have the reactors that do the reacting in the middle. And down here is where the depleted fuel goes to get turned into all the byproducts. This is for all of our post-UV chemical lines. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of them, I hope. I may have to make a second one of this building or extend the roof or something because we're not even like past UHV and we've already used like maybe 70% of this building. So I don't know what I'm going to do there, but that was the intention initially, was for this building to be post UV. I'm very glad. This is probably my favorite building that I've made in the base so far. It looks really nice. I like how like the staircase came out and everything. It's very clean, even though nobody's going to use this staircase because you just fly everywhere with jet plate or slash fly. But the design philosophy for this building was I wanted all the machines to be nice and visible, but not to see any of like the cabling that goes on. So I added this like back section where you can just do all the A2 stuff that needs to be done on all the various different machines. But also we have a window so you can like see all the wiring in the back and it looks really cool. I believe that is all of the automation covered so far. I don't think we've missed anything. LV through to about EV is mostly just temporary setups using symbol blocks that you tear down once you get the multi-blocks in the EV age here. The amazing, incredibly fast multi-blocks. I think now I'd like to go over a bit of the aesthetics of the base. So I was tasked with building. So even though a lot of these chemistry lines have been built by other people, not me, which is why I haven't really been able to explain them, I've done all the building for the base. So we start off with the central Windows logo because you have to remember to activate Windows. It's very important. And then the second building I designed, I believe, was the on-demand building here. So I wanted something nice and clean for all of the different multi-blocks to live in. And I was pretty happy with this one. I used this one as inspiration for the really big chemistry building over there. So this was like a miniature version that I could practice the different style on. And then I made the basalt tower, as I like to call it, the rainbow basalt tower, for all of our sort of chemistry lines that we needed before the UV age, where we got like flux and creative and useful stuff. And you can see it was essentially perfect. We filled it right up with LCRs and multi-blocks of all kinds. Then I made the nuclear building over here for stuff needed for quantum circuits. So going from nano circuits here to quantum circuits in IV is probably the longest jump, since you need a lot of things to get quantum as opposed to the things you need to get nano. But we got it eventually, and I actually also like how this nuclear building came out. Looks very like factory and industrial, and for some reason these blocks are around the wrong way. And also like the nice tree gardens. I am wanting to put more decorations of like nature and stuff around the base, because having just flat grass, while it makes it easy to build on, it doesn't really look very nice. It makes it look very plain. So once we get the buildings mostly finalized, I'd like to go around and add, some trees, vines, lake or two, some sugarcane maybe, just so it looks like a bit more alive and like a proper civilization, if you will. So the ore processing and EBF building are pretty basic. It's just factory blocks. It's sunken into the floor, which is pretty cool. Like the path goes through the building, and then it's just a giant EBF logo, the EBF building on all four sides. So I sort of ran out of inspiration on these two. And then for the fusion, I wanted it to be like a really big area. So at some point, I might put like some glass here, or like a roof or something. I haven't quite decided yet. I built this recently. And then the battery tower, as I've said before, it looks very sort of sci-fi. All the towers leading into the central column. So I feel like I should explain a bit more why you want to use multi-blocks in TJ for those who don't know. They do what's called on-tier parallel. And let me explain what that means. So this centrifuge here is currently running this recipe, sticky resin to 3 pulp, 1 plant ball, and 100 glue. It is ULV and it takes 20 seconds. Now when I activate it and I hold shift, you look in the top left corner of the screen, we can see that it is taking 0.3 seconds and it is doing 144 dust at a time. And that is because it is running at extreme voltage, which is LV, MV, HV, EV. That is 4 tiers above what this recipe normally is. So not only is it faster because it's a higher voltage, because it's in a multi-block, it is also parallelizing. So it is doing more recipes at a time. For those who are used to automating with single blocks and you're wondering, why is literally everything in a large chemical reactor or in a mixer? It is because it makes the automation process that much faster. Like very, very rarely will you need to AFK in TJ just because of the sheer machine speed. Now, that is also very useful because, as you've probably seen, the chemistry lines get very complicated. So there, as an example, let's look at that. Let's look at the comma. Yes, let's look at this chemical from earlier. So this needs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then like these are 1 step each. So 7, 8, and then moving back up, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, I guess. So that is a lot of steps for one chemical, and you need probably around 3 to 4 of those long chemical chains per voltage tier. So it is very, very important that you set up these chemistry lines so that they are fully automatic and they're just made constantly. Compared to some other Greg packs like Nomi, your base does not need to be this big at all. And that is also because Nomi has less ages. Like the base is this big and we're just over halfway, I'd say. So some final thoughts. This pack is very good and I would very much recommend it if you want a challenging, complicated, but not necessarily that grindy Gregtech experience. Unfortunately, it is on Community Edition, so you'll have to suffer through that, as it is a lot more buggy than Community Edition unofficial, like Factory. But otherwise, it is very fun, especially with friends. It's very fun to play with friends because you can sort of split up the tasks among each of the different members, so you're not having to do all of the different chemistry lines yourself, because it's kind of easy to get burnt out that way if you're not an absolute maniac. I forgot to mention, all of these buildings are built in creative mode. Now, you might say that's cheating, but I just think it doesn't really add to the progression at all. It just makes the base look cool. So we will be going for Creative Soul, obviously, possibly Max Questbook, but I don't know. Some of these are a bit boring. And funnily enough, this is actually the second time me and this group are going for Creative Soul. We have done it before, but the base looked terrible. And we didn't like it. It was a hollow victory. So we're doing it again, but this time we're doing it properly with a proper base and cool automations and a sick setup in general. So that is the logic there. If you want to see playtime, here we are. This is what we are at so far. So there's about 5 or maybe 6 active members currently playing. But yes, so sorry for not uploading in a while, but I haven't really been motivated. But anyways, goodbye.